Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Well, there's so much disturbing stuff in the Epstein files, and one thing that I didn't want to be overlooked was the Department of Education, because they do come up a lot in these files. They come up a lot. And it's troubling. It's very troubling that they're implicated in all this. Troubling, but not that surprising. And I guess the real reason I wanted to do a video on it, I just wanted to show everybody how easy it is for organizations like the Department of Education, organizations that we trust, organizations that are supposed to all be there to help us and for us, how easy it is for them to be corrupted by bad actors like Jeffrey Epstein. And in this case, the Department of Education, even though it's in St. Thomas, it's still the United States Department of Education, okay? They don't get a free hand just because they don't have a congressman to represent them. They are still part of the United States. It's still the United States government, still the United States Department of Education. That they willingly worked and accepted money from Jeffrey Epstein. Willingly. Like, even though they kept taking money years after he was convicted of engaging in child prostitution. Soliciting child prostitution. And I hate saying that word, child prostitute. In my mind, there's no such thing as a child prostitute. There's only like an exploited child. There really is no such thing as a child prostitute, because they don't have the wherewithal to consent to do that. So I just think it's an evil term. I don't like it. I don't like that there's like an actual legal term like that. I think it's disgusting and despicable to ever refer to a child as a prostitute. And it makes me very upset. Anyway, so like I said, even with all that, years after that happened, the Department of Education in St. Thomas still worked with Jeffrey Epstein, and I don't even know if they really necessarily had a choice. This is the sad part. They may not have had a choice, because it wasn't just the Department of Education that was working with Jeffrey Epstein. It was also the first lady of the island, and she was the first lady from I believe 2007 to 2015. Don't quote me on that. I believe that was how long she was like the first lady of St. Thomas. But she worked with Jeffrey that whole time. Honestly, it looks like she worked for Jeffrey Epstein. Now think about the implication of that. A government official's wife worked for an already convicted pedophile. Think about that. Not only worked for him, constantly asked him for funding for the Department of Education. Constantly. To be honest, it's really despicable what she gave him access to. I mean, you can't tell me that she didn't know. This is years after he had like served jail time for pedophilia. And here we are, they're working out together, funding for the STEM Science Fair in the Virgin Islands. And look what Jeffrey Epstein says out of his own mouth. Keeping in mind, this is years after he was already convicted of stuff like this. The STEM fairs are not just about awarding students for their impressive work, Jeffrey Epstein commented. They offer an exciting incentive for students across the Virgin Islands to participate in science projects at school and home. Now, I want everyone to absorb this very, very carefully and really process this in your minds. Because a lot of us, myself included, have this like knee-jerk reaction to people doing charitable work like this. We have this knee-jerk reaction, like, when it comes to like people like the royal family or other like sociopaths that do a lot of charity work, to think, oh, that is so kind. Look at that. They're helping. The rich are helping us. Oh, that's so nice of them. I really appreciate it, because they really didn't have to. So nice of them and thoughtful, right? And it honestly adds like a layer of protection, a mental layer of protection around these people in our minds. Because it's like, It's a lot harder to assume they're capable of evil when you see them doing such good. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's a tactic. It's a manipulation. It's a manipulation. And as I go along, and I just really touched the surface of the Department of Education documents and the Epstein files. As I go along, you will see how deep it goes, how many schools are willing to turn a blind eye to all this, to what he's done, and just, get down on their knees, kiss the ring, beg for money. And it's really shocking and upsetting to me. It's really upsetting. Okay, but anyways, this is to Cecile DeJong. She is our first lady. She's in these files quite a bit, like over 1,000 times. Hi, Cecile. I hope you are well. I would like to contact the U.S. Virgin Island groups below to get a link onto their websites. Could you okay the list? Thank you. I'm not sure why they redacted that. Shouldn't that be Jeffrey Epstein? Or is he asking on behalf of somebody else? Oh, look, it does say that. Look, okay. Up here in the top where you see the email address contact, you'll see it is from Jeffrey Epstein, but it's from on behalf of, redacted. So he's trying to get access to these websites and stuff on behalf for somebody else. Now, at first I thought, okay, well, maybe he just wants the links to these websites. I mean, but that's not that big of a deal. The more I think about it, it's like, okay, this is 2013 though. That's all he wanted, he could have simply found that himself, didn't have to go to the First Lady of the Virgin Islands to get that. You know what I mean? But he must mean, in my opinion, it's purely speculation, that he wants actual access, to these websites, not just a regular public view access, but actual access to these That's the way I take it. I mean, I could be wrong. It could just be simply he just wants the links and he's just emailing this important politician rather than just asking his assistant to find these links. That's why I think it might be a little bit more than that. Anywho. And these are the organizations he wants access to on behalf of someone who is redacted. And I don't know why specifically these organizations. I haven't had time to really look into all of them. It's a lot, but I just wanted to show them because I don't know if any of you can see a distinct pattern between these. Some of them are sports. I mean, some of them are charities. We've got the government of Virgin Islands, Rising Star Youth Steel Orchestra. I don't know. It's Virgin Island Public TV System. It's strange. What do all these have in common? Why does he need the links to these? Why can't his assistant get the links to them? Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's code for something. Maybe they're all code for something else. That's interesting. I wonder if these organizations exist. I haven't actually had a time to Google any of them, but hold on a second. Let me check to see if any of them actually exist. Hold up. Okay, well, yeah, some of them are definitely real, and one that's looks very interesting to me. I haven't had a chance to look at all of them. I mean, this one is very interesting. This specifically revolves around young women and young girls. I don't know. I don't know what to take of all this. I really don't. Don't know why he's emailing the First Lady of St. Thomas to get these links if he just simply wants to look through the website. It doesn't make much sense to me. I have to assume that he wants actual access to it, because there is an email later that she returns to Jeffrey Epstein where she literally includes the ones he can get access to, because some of them are, apparently not all of them, have their own websites. So she sends a shorter list of these organizations back to him to show him which ones he can access. So there's something to this. I'm not really sure why specifically these organizations, what he's doing in St. Thomas with these organizations. I'm not really sure. But the First Lady is just selling out her own island, basically. It's sad. It's sad. But anywho, and then here's an email also between the First Lady of the Virgin Islands and Jeffrey Epstein. And her telling him specifically how much money she needs and for what. For the upcoming science fair that they're organizing together. The STEM science fair. And yeah, like, asking him for more funding for it. Hi, kitty. Sorry, my cat's being whiny this morning. What I find interesting is that she's also asking for funding for some of, like, the winners of this science fair to have their flights and stuff paid for to go to the DC science fair and whatnot. So, yeah, he's very involved in all of that. And then here we go. Here's the high school in St. Thomas. Now, this is in reference to, like, a random $20,000 check that Jeffrey Epstein wrote to this particular high school in St. Thomas. And what's interesting is the principal of this high school, Stefan V. Jurgen, is a relatively new principal at this high school. And he writes a letter back. This is the letter back that he writes to Jeffrey, saying, thanks, but no thanks. You can keep the money. We still need all this stuff, sure. But, like, I've been told to not take the money. That's basically what this letter is about. And I found it very interesting because apparently they insinuate that this is not the first time that Jeffrey Epstein has just dumped money in this high school. And that it doesn't sound like this principal is very happy that he's been told not to accept this money. Doesn't seem like he's very happy. But he tells, Jeffrey Epstein, sorry, I got to write this check back to you. Hope it doesn't mess up your taxes, rich people problems. And then says that he's been told, doesn't say specifically by who. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it does say, okay, as per the directive of his immediate supervisor, the insular superintendent, Dion Wells Hendrington. Okay, that's who told them to give it back, because we know it wasn't Cecile. We know that she didn't tell him to send it back, but someone with perhaps, hopefully, a little integrity did. So good. Yeah, because it's weird. Just this rich pedophile just dropping money in a high school. Like, come on now. Come on. Because then he's going to want access to said high school to those students. So basically you're accepted. Anyway. So it's just sad because Cecile has been doing this a long time, and this letter very much indicates